show dedicated to the creative process, the creative journey, and all the highs and the lows that go into that. We're joined in the studio today by Steven Vinacour, who has a whole host of experience under his belt. He's a writer and a producer. He's worked on the BAFTAs and TV and various other things. I'm going to not get into that in too much detail because I really would like you to hear it from the horse's mouth. Welcome to the studio today, Steven. How are you?
Yes, very good. Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure. I'm really excited to kind of delve into your creative journey, to find out how you got where you are and what you're up to at the moment and everything as well. I suppose that the question I want to ask you to kind of kick things off is, what does creativity mean to you?
Oh God, that's a tough one to start with. Creativity, I guess, means being able to express yourself in a medium where it's appreciated. I think probably that's important because you only kind of become creative if you know people are appreciating it, I think.
Is that how you feel creative, in a sense, when you know people are appreciating your work? And not you personally, but generally, creatives generally.
Anyone from kids who draw a picture to then show it to you, it's nice to know whether people like what you do. Otherwise, you realise quickly that it's not the industry for you and you move on. And that's the only way. You can't plod along without any feedback whatsoever.
I think the feedback is reassuring, isn't it? It's kind of quite comforting to hear and to receive that feedback.
Yeah, you've got to, whatever you do, whether it's the script writing or the it's how you learn. It's totally how you learn, and you've got to accept criticism. You can't be too precious about your work, and you learn from it, and that's how you grow.
So let's talk about you as a writer.
Okay.
You do varying types of writing. So what's your favourite? What are you working on? Are you writing at the moment?
Well, yeah. Day to day, I work for a production company called Sassy Films. We actually dip into virtually any kind of broadcast, whether it be TV shows, live events, commercials, charity videos, corporate, anything where a camera and a production is needed. Sassy Films get involved in that, and I have been writing with them since the beginning, since they first set up.
Did you produce with them as well as write?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I produce the TV shows that they do. I produce some of the commercials and some of the live events as well. But, I mean, I get the most pleasure, shall we say, from writing, from script writing.
Okay, lovely. And you write for them when need be as well?
I write for them. It's my full-time job.
Oh, fantastic. So you're really lucky, because a lot of the creators that I have here, the creators and the creatives in a way, don't often get to work full-time in the industry.
It's very, very rare.
It is, and it's so lucky as well, because you get to live in that space a lot of the time. Do you ever find it hard? In other words, do you ever not be able to tap into that creativity within yourself? Inspiration is a big part of creativity, isn't it? So
yes, it is. If I'm in the right frame of mind, and I can get in the right frame of mind, I can write. Certain things are formulaic in the industry. There are scripts, there are commercials, and the way you can do a skeleton of how to work. But fortunately, my immature outlook on life, I guess, has always enabled me to take words and make something funny out of them, what I think is funny. And if I can do that, then I can start building on it. So start with a skeleton, add what you find is funny, and then show it to someone and build on it. So
that's that feedback that you were talking about before, is that to get that feedback keeps the flow and the grow in a way.
Yeah.
It keeps it growing and moving forward, and without that feedback, it's only your I suppose, your input, your perception.
Yeah, when I first started writing, and I'll probably explain more a bit later about where and how I started, but I worked in a writer's room. So there were 5 or 6 writers, and these writers were all stand-up comics and well-known people. And when I started at that company, I was work experience. And that room was just the place I dreamt about going. And sometimes, they took it in their stride. That was what they did, but it was what I wanted to do. And the long hours and the messing around often would upset them. But I really wanted to be in there. And they'd never taken on, as far as I know, someone that wasn't a writer or a stand-up comedian ever into that room. And that's where I wanted to be. And learning my trade that way, off these people, in a group where we could throw ideas around, and we'd use a whiteboard and throw around ideas and come up with the best idea, was such good training for me, because it wasn't me just thinking what I wrote was fantastic. Look at my work, it's fantastic, I wrote it. This was how you work and how you get the best out of a script, and it was fantastic training.
And I'd imagine in that kind of space, you've got some really excellent people who are at the top of their game doing that role, and they're giving you feedback, and they're helping you to refine and work at your writing. So what a fantastic place.
Yeah, they knew I was how passionate I was about being there. They were, as you say, top of the game, and they still are. They're still in the industry. They're still doing stand-up, and they're still great when you see them. And I owe it to them for letting me into that room.
So did you it was just work experience, or did you actually land a job there?
No, I started work experience for a company many years ago in the 90s called Planet 24, and Planet 24 was, for many would remember, it was the place to work. We were doing The Big Breakfast and The Word and Hotel Babylon and Gaytime TV, and it was young and it was cool, and it was the best place to even get a job. And there were so many of us. It was a huge company that sadly doesn't exist anymore, but so many people went through there that the majority, I'd say, of people that are in the industry now worked at some point there. It was such a creative hub of people my age that now work throughout the industry and own a lot of the companies now. And I managed to get work experience there. I was doing something completely different, very non-creative, and I was lucky enough that someone helped me get in.
Who?
It was a girl called Mandy, who I owe a lot to, because I was in an industry I didn't enjoy.
Are we allowed to talk
young.
about
No,
it?
yeah, I was an estate agent. I was very bored. I didn't know what I wanted to do in life. And I was working for a hospital radio station called called Radio Gosh, which is at Great Ormond Street. And I met a lot of people there. It was, again, it's a lot of people have gone on into the industry from there. And she worked at Planet 24, and I thought it sounded like the best place ever to work for. And bear in mind, no one I know was in television. I didn't know anyone apart from this one person. People tell me you cannot just go into television.
Mandy.
It was this place that was the fantasy place that you couldn't actually get into, because no one knew how to get into. I don't come from any television people or anything like that. And she worked at Planet 24, and I said, well, how do I get into TV? That sounds amazing. And she said, you've got to do work experience. Now, at the time, they took on 6 work experience every week, and you stayed for 6 weeks unpaid to learn the industry. So there's 36 of us every single week. So there's a huge amount of work experience, desperate for a job. And I got in there, and I literally said I would do anything. And I went in routes I really didn't want to go. That sounds a bit perverse. It's not.
I was at my mind's racing up thinking, where is there something we need to discuss? But
no,
I'll
that
let
wasn't
you lead
until
the
much
way.
later in my career.
Oh,
no,
yes.
No.
This is not that kind of interview, but it can be if you want.
I know. So post-production. I went in a post-production route, and I didn't really want to be in that post-production route, but I knew I wanted to be in that industry, and I didn't know what I wanted to do because it was all new to me. So I wanted to try everything, and whenever anyone said, "Can you help with that?" I was like, "Yeah, of course I help with that," because I wanted to know what I wanted to do. And this was there was a live show, 3 hours every day, so I could see everything. And I got to know people, and I was like, can I try that, and can I help out there? And I learned everything. And the one place I wanted to go when I realised was writing. Mm-hmm. I wanted to be creative, which I'll carry on the story. So I went to the head of the department there, and I said I want to write. And she said, "Well, what have you written?" And I said, "I've written nothing." Because I had written nothing. I just knew I wanted to write. And she said, "No, everyone that comes in says they want to write. But you have to have written something." So I went away and offered my services to anyone that would take it.
As a writer?
As a writer. So I wrote for websites, and I wrote for radio stations, and I wrote for anyone and anything, magazines, pamphlet, anything to build up
all
a
voluntary
resume.
stuff, presumably, or?
Some of it was, some of it wasn't. If they offered me money, I'd certainly take it, but there wasn't a lot of it around. And I just pushed myself for, I don't know, maybe a year, and I wrote, at the time I wrote a sitcom, a sketch show, which I offered to, I said, this is everything I've done in the last year. It took me a year or a year and a half to go back and say, I've written all this, and I've written this show. And at the time, which isn't the way you do things, I actually sent this show out to any actor that I thought appropriate, and tried to get, and I got a cast together, which
you did
at the time was, unheard of. It's not the way you do things,
ballsy,
but I didn't know. But I just had to go in, and this was my one shot to present what I'd done. And I went back to her and I said, "This is what I've done, and this is the cast." And
I was going to say, did you go into this is what I've done, and these are who are going to be doing
these
it?
who will be going in it, yeah.
Wow.
Well, no. I mean, not. I mean, this was what she did. I mean, she owned a television company. Me and my little cast of people. But it didn't matter. These were celebrities. I mean, these were well-known people, and so that worked quite well. And she said, "All right, let me have a look at the script." And then she came back to me and said, "I like what you're writing. You should write for the Big Breakfast." And writing for the Big Breakfast was just the turning point to me. And it trained me. It meant I could go anywhere else because I'd written for the Big Breakfast.
Amazing. I mean, that opens up all doors for you. But what happened to the sitcom?
Funnily enough, okay, they liked the sitcom. The sitcom became in development, and then the company pretty much doesn't exist. I mean, doesn't exist anymore. Planet 24. So nothing ever happened there. But I used that sitcom, and I sent it to a company I worked for after that, and he called me in, the owner of that company, and said, "I found this quite funny. I need a writer." And no, he said, "I don't need a writer. I need a producer." So I said, "Well, I'll do that." And he said, "But you've never produced anything." And a year ago I'd never written anything. So I said, "Well, I'll be fine." And he liked that attitude, and said, "All right then, I'll take you on as a writer producer." And I've worked with him now through 2 companies ever since, really. Wow. So I'm still the same person who employed me from Planet 24.
So I'm going to ask again, what became of the sitcom? I mean, this is a sitcom that is never, it's like, what's that word? Oh, it's a phrase. The gift that keeps on giving, isn't it?
Yeah, the sitcom is nowhere. I mean, I still have it.
It's not a sitcom. You've got it, and it opened up doors as a writer, and it's opened up doors as a producer.
Yeah, I mean, if I looked back at it now, I'd probably think it was horrendous, and I'd probably want to rewrite the whole thing. But at the time, it opened up doors for me. So,
don't you think that there's something in it, though? If it did open doors at such amazing companies, both times in different ways, maybe that now that you are a producer and a writer, and in some way, maybe that's something to consider.
Maybe
this sitcom obviously wants to do something. Yeah. What a story! Because you know how many people I speak to here and out of the studio as well, who keep putting themselves out there and keep putting out their creative work, and it keeps getting shot down, and they don't get that feedback, and it's kind of heartbreaking in a way. And to hear a story that was this the first thing that you'd written and you put out there and it got received in that way?
Yeah, but bear in mind, if I would have been not working there, I mean, I'm going to be honest that my situation was very good in that I was offering it and I was working for them. So it was very easy for me to knock on the door and say, hello, can you have a look at this? If I was an estate agent sending in that script, they would not have looked at it. It doesn't happen that way.
So I guess for our viewers, the moral of this story in a way is get in there.
Yeah.
You know, be a runner, get in there, get your foot in the door, keep hold of your dreams in a way, and just be tenacious in a sense and just go for it. But you've got to be in there, I suppose, to get it.
You've got to be in there, and you've got to, most important thing, you've got to really want it and love it, because it is, you do get knocked back all the time. It's incredibly hard and at the beginning, and it's long hours, and it's hard work. It's not all glamour.
And that's an important thing to mention, because people see the end result,
of course,
which feels very glamorous.
Of course.
But then they don't see the number of things that you've done that have been kind of sent back.
They don't know the journey to get there.
So what is that like, that journey then?
Well, I mean, it depends. If I'm doing a TV show, it might look fantastic on screen, but what you don't see is the day I spent in the pouring rain and freezing cold, where we didn't get the interview we wanted and we went home with nothing. That's the art and the magic of TV, is that the end result looks fantastic and everyone was happy.
Yeah. And how do you keep going when you get the knockbacks and everything? I mean, that's something.
I think I've got quite a laid-back attitude in that I don't take it personally. It's fine if I'm in a room and someone doesn't like my joke. It's fine. I will rewrite it. It's harder if you do, if you're doing something like stand-up, because that's immediate and you're going to get the reaction there.
That's a bit ouch, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But invariably, I'll write for other people. So, and if you learn to write for other people, you can't write your style for other people. You've got to write their style. So you've got to look at what they do and how they say things and write it for them.
So I think in a way that is, you're slightly removed, because I was going to say, when you're in that creative zone and you're busy creating whatever it is, paintings, music, scripts, you're pouring your heart and soul into it in a sense, and it's almost a piece of you. That's how others have described it. And what you're describing, in a way, is a slightly different way of doing it. You're writing for somebody else. So therefore, as much as it is a creative piece of yours, you're slightly removed, because then the knockbacks are more about them, and that triangle, it brings another person into the fold. Makes it a bit easier to take the knockbacks then, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's not so much knockback. I don't see it as knockbacks. If I'm writing for someone, I know that they're going in front of camera, and they're going to say these words. And if I say something controversial, nothing will come back to me. I mean, it will, but no one will ever see it come back to me. It's them. So I understand, and I understood very quickly that they are the face of my words. So if they are saying them, I have to understand that and respect that. Now, if they say to me, I wouldn't say it like that, I'd say it slightly differently, then that's right. They should be changing my words. And that's fine. That's, you can't become precious, because they're someone else's words. And if they're someone else's words, then they've got to get it. They've got to feel 100% comfortable. And that attitude is how I've fortunately stayed in the industry all that time, because if you become precious and you say, no, you've got to say it like this, and they are uncomfortable, you will not.
I think that reminds me of that whole ego thing, if it becomes about you and about you not getting, your words being precious, that's your ego in the mix, and that's a very dangerous thing to add, because it does burn bridges and it pisses people off and upsets the whole system in a way. So that's quite sound advice, I suppose, to anybody watching this, is to kind of keep your ego in check when you're presenting your creative work, even if it's your own, as in if it's a painting or a piece of music or a film or whatever it is, that's your own work, not writing for somebody else or creating it for somebody else, but to kind of keep your ego in check, because that can be quite defeating, can't it?
Yeah, people are allowed to criticise. People are allowed to not like what I do, what I say. It's fine. And in this day and age, in social media, everyone has a voice, even those that don't deserve one.
But it's a bit easier said than done, that resilience. Does it come over time, or kind of being comfortable with it? How can we...
I'm confident. I am confident in what I do. I know that I've done it long enough for a lot of different people that my work is fine. So if someone doesn't like it, that's fine. And I've worked with. I used to do a lot of a news entertainment show. So doing a news entertainment show, you do a lot of interviews, and you interviewed a lot of. I interviewed a lot of celebrities for a TV show called Celebrity Extra, which doesn't exist anymore, but it lasted for a long time. When you're speaking to people all day long and doing interviews, not everyone will take to you, and you'll come out of some of the junkets with some of the biggest people in the world, the biggest stars, and you'll say, "Oh, that was awful. That went horribly wrong." And there's two ways of dealing with that. Either you doubt yourself or you doubt them. And at first you doubt yourself because you think, I didn't interview very well. And then when the confidence builds, and when you're comfortable, when you think, I can interview someone, I know how to interview someone, but that didn't go well, you can say, I don't think they are on form. I don't think they answered very well. And that comes with time. And it does happen. It happens rarely, but it does happen.
Time, experience, confidence. I mean, it's all part of it, I suppose. And some days you may have off days, and that should be okay as well. Yeah. In a sense, it's just it's okay to make mistakes. I'm a bit of a perfectionist, so that's something I need to keep reminding myself. Yeah. But I guess to translate that for our viewers, because that's kind of what I do with every interview, we try and take your process and your journey and translate it for everybody that may be watching. And I guess what I suppose you're saying is to find that self-belief and confidence in yourself and in your own ability, so that then any criticisms that come your way or any knockbacks they don't penetrate quite so deep.
Yeah, don't take it personally. I mean,
in a way.
Honestly,
you can learn from them, can't you? Because they're happening for a reason. But it's about finding that inner sense of that your work is good. Yeah,
I mean, you can question it. I push back. If someone doesn't get a joke, that could be their problem, not mine, and I will push back and But ultimately, if the majority say,
if 10 people don't laugh, it's a good chance.
But that's fine. But if young people want to get into TV, the route is still the same. You still have to do work experience. And what I learnt and what I always pass on is what I told you, that there were 36 work experience in that company. So one job comes up, 36 people want that job before it's advertised externally. So it was really difficult to get the job, but not impossible, because when you're working for nothing, a large percentage of those people will say, I'm not doing that because I'm working for nothing. And I found that all the time, and I still find it. You ask, it's menial what you do as a work experience. Not always, but there's a lot that you do.
You've got to be prepared to do that, though. I mean, at the end of the day, it's about a company, or anybody really, will employ somebody who goes the extra mile, because then, let's be honest, they can get more for less at the beginning. And then you've got your foot in the door. Sure.
Anyone getting work experience, rule out 60-65% of their competition if they're enthusiastic and they're bright and they turn up on time. You say whatever they're asked, yes, just do it.
And then what if someone's older than work experience age and wants to get into the industry? Is there any advice for them?
No chance. No, I'm not kidding. If they've never done it before, it's going to be hard, but there are routes. I believe that the BBC do a writers group where they offer up certain radio sketch shows for people to contribute. So you can start building a CV that way. But even the same route I take, write for people, write for magazines, write blog, write anything, because you've got to learn your trade. And just saying, like I did, I can write is not good enough. You've got to show people.
Proof,
and not one
evidence.
thing. You've got to say, look at all this I've written, and this is where it was published, this is where it was seen. I got 500,000 views on this. That's the only way. You have to prove yourself.
So I guess they don't have to wait. Whatever age you are, on whatever stage you're at, don't wait to get the writer's job. Start writing.
Yeah.
Get it out there. Your work might be found, isn't it? If there's a particular topic that somebody writes about, that could be picked up potentially. I would imagine there's different routes to get there. They just have to be writing, gather that evidence.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, even now I write. Someone will phone me up and say, "We're doing a show. Can you offer some ideas?" If it's a sketch show, and they want 25 ideas by Monday, and of that, 3 or 4 might get used. But that's 21 ideas I worked on that are no good, whether they've been used before or whether they're too similar to someone else's. Doesn't matter the reason. You can't go, well, hang on a minute, I've written 25, I want you to use all 25. It's pointless, and that won't get you in.
Right. And I guess I just want to also say thank you, because you're speaking quite openly. It's a small niche industry, and to be openly talking about it in this way is very generous of you, and I really appreciate that. On behalf of the viewers and everybody, it's very much appreciated, I can assure you.
Well, people helped me get in. I'm never going to deny that. People helped me, especially Mandy. She helped me get in through the door, and then people have helped me along the way. The writers helped me when I was training, and many people, and even my boss now, Steve, took a chance on me way back then when he said, and I said I could produce, and I've never produced anything. And
so is that what got you into Sassy?
No, it was another company called Banana Split Productions, which
heard
he
of
owned.
them.
Yeah. Which he then sold and moved on to Sassy Films. But you can't do it without help. So
I mean, that's, to be honest, that's part of what the Creative Herts community is all about. We are slowly but surely, and sometimes not so slowly, building the support network and community, because being a creative can be quite lonely and isolating. Even though you've got your job and you're in the industry and you're surrounded by it, it's a place that when you're in that creative process is quite lonely, because you're removed from others to produce or to create. So the Creative Herts community is about bringing creatives together where we can inspire one another, like that writer's room that you described.
Yeah.
For whatever creative part of the process or which medium somebody is engaged in, there's a place where we can kind of light that fire under each other, get excited by what others are doing, and not necessarily competitive, but supportive.
That writer's room,
that help is important.
Yeah, it's worth mentioning that when I went along to that, because someone told me about it, so I thought I'd go along, and they open it up to anyone. I went when I was maybe 18 or 19 to see, because I wanted to write, and I think I was the youngest by about 45 years.
Wow.
So, and they looked at me like, what on earth is he doing in here? So, when you said to me, what if someone is older? The doors are still open. You've just got to find them,
Keep looking for
keep
those
looking.
doors.
They're there.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I've got to ask you another question. I see from the notes that kind of were sent, that you sent through to us before your interview, that you do voiceovers, and I'm really fascinated about the toys. Your voices of various toys.
Yeah.
You said, I have got to go. I want to know all about that, because
Yeah,
I've got a 10-year-old son, you see.
Okay,
Who's
the toys are called Smashables, and they're like aliens and mummies and monsters that you can throw around. And when you throw them around, they scream or they make a noise. And I've done many voiceovers over the years. It's the most bizarre job I ever do.
I love
I spend a day in a recording studio, and they say, right, okay, you're an alien, and how would an alien sound if he fell down the stairs? And how would a zombie sound if someone ignored him and didn't want to play with him? And it's
How much
just
fun!
the most fun you can have, and you have to leave your inhibitions outside the studio and sit there and make an absolute fool of yourself, coming up with these weird ideas, and it's the most fun you can have.
Oh, I mean, it sounds absolutely fantastic, to be honest. And I know guys are particularly good at sound effects and things like that, but I'm terrible. I mean, my gun is just embarrassing when I do the gun noise. You know, that's the classic girls' bad. I mean, I shouldn't speak for all women or all girls, but just not really going to do it, is it? No. I'll never get a job doing that. But are you allowed to share some of those voices with us, or are they copywritten?
No. Well, no, I don't think I'm going to be a zombie and whatever. But
I feel a bit like a zombie, so you know, I
yeah,
identify.
no, I mean, let's say they're called smashables, and they're great fun. But
and how did you get that? That was
because I do voiceovers, and I was put up for it. It's how it works. You know, someone says try this, and
so not Buzz Lightyear or any of. I mean, they're famous voices, aren't they?
Yeah, I've not.
But you could.
I've not done a car. I mean, I'd love to do an animation, but I've not. I'm usually, out now. Or
how would somebody do that if somebody wanted to be the voice of an animation character? Is there somewhere that you go to get
love
found?
To know. You tell me.
If anybody out there knows the answer to this big question, please do write in and Facebook us or something, because keen to know. Yeah, I'll pass on any feedback to you.
I guess you've got to have an agent, and getting an agent it's an incredibly hard industry to be full-time voiceover. I know maybe one or two that are full-time voiceover people. They are normally actors. And actors become voiceover people, voiceover artists.
But I guess it's knowing that you do it. I mean, you've already done it to an extent.
Yeah.
And you do voiceovers for adverts and things as well?
Only because of my history of working radio. I used to work in radio as well, and like proper radio as opposed to hospital radio.
Yes.
And so when I was on the Big Breakfast and someone said, don't you do radio now? Yeah, can you voice what was Snap, Cackle and Pop, which was their little interstitial thing? And I said, yeah, I can try out for that. And they went, fine, you'll do that. And that started my voiceover, and I thought, oh, actually, voiceovers are fun. It's the easiest and most fun thing you can do is someone hands you a script and you just go in and
Well, I was going to say, you get given your script, so you don't have to write it, and you just literally read it with expression.
Exactly.
Make your alien noises. And
Yeah, whatever. I say whatever.
Cool.
Yeah.
Do you?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. If someone wants to pay me to say something within reason, I'll probably say it. Yeah.
You love your job, don't you? Because it's also varied. Even though your main focus seems to be writing, in a sense, that's kind of the main focus, but all these other bits that come off of it, and the industry that you're in, and the opportunities, and I think that's something that I'm admiring about you is you seem to grab those opportunities and run with them, and often create your own as well.
You've got to. That's the only way. Everyone, whatever industry you want to do within the creative industry, there'll be people that go, oh, you can't do that. It's really hard. It's a rat race. There's people wanting to do it and will do it cheaper than you and faster than you, and that is true. But that doesn't mean you can't do it. And if you really want to do it, and you've got to really want to do it, then you will probably do it. If you push yourself in the right direction, there is nothing. My parents are not in the creative industry, but they instilled in me that if you really want to do it, you will probably do it. You've got to go out there and get it. No one will give it to you. Yeah. You have to ask the questions.
You've got to make things happen, knock on doors, open doors.
Yeah.
Create the doors sometimes.
Yeah. You have to. You have to ask the question. You can't send in a manuscript and think that's it. I'm going to be, the next Christopher Nolan. It's not going to happen. He was not a writer. for years. Anyway, it's not going to happen like that. You have to, you have to meet people, and you have to push yourself, and you have to start small. This item that you've written may be the next massive movie, but spending your whole time thinking about that is crazy. Unless you're Steven Spielberg, it's crazy. It's not going to happen unless people know you exist. They get thousands of manuscripts every single day. The chance of them reading yours is so slim. So start with anything. Find out if you know anyone in a band and direct their music video. Do anything just to
do whatever you
be
can
creative and build a name for yourself.
And I mean, I think today with social media, with YouTube and things like that, it's easier than ever to
easier.
get yourself
Yeah.
out there.
Yeah, it is. Offer your services for free. Do anything to build up a CV of stuff that you've done. Anything.
It's really sound advice.
Yeah,
It's really sound advice.
True.
So what happens? Do you get people approaching you with ideas and asking you to produce them, or does it not work that way?
Well, I'm in a very lucky and rare position where I'm full-time for a production company. So, and it's fortunately a very thriving production company. And work comes in, a lot of different, varying, interesting work comes in, and I write it, basically.
Okay. So if somebody were to approach you away from work with an idea, would you take it to the company, or how does that work?
It depends what it is. I would be, people do, and I'm always very honest with them. If they've written a sketch show and they offer it to me, I will immediately say it's incredibly hard at the moment to get a sketch show on TV. If you look at what's out there, very, very little new talent is making sketch shows. And everyone wants to write a sketch show.
Why is that, do you think? What do they think?
I guess from a writing point of view, it's maybe the easy option than developing characters through a sitcom. And if you have a comedy mind, that's where you start, I guess. But with BBC Three gone, it's even smaller. It's so difficult. But there are ways, there are new ways, and the way is get it onto YouTube, because people are looking at that. That's where, if you go out and grab someone with a camera and do something, it doesn't have to be beautifully shot. It just has to be funny if it's a sketch show. So if you can do that, then and then sort of go and do some stand-up, do it live, see what reaction you get. Is it funny? There's no way of knowing other than showing it to people. So go and do it live, and then if it goes well, go to Edinburgh and do it, and you'll get people finding you.
And I guess there are people who have, as we said before, this idealistic view of how quick and easy it's going to be, and they're going to just write the one thing, it's going to get found, they're going to make big stars, shoot them to the stars and back, and it doesn't happen that way.
No, it takes years.
Although sometimes you do get these wonder stories, don't you, where...
But they only make the news because they are rare, and even if you look at, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire or something like that, it took years before it actually came onto TV. It does, and I've worked on a game show before, but piloting one, and you develop the idea, and then you test it, and then you redevelop it, and you test it, and you redevelop it, and you test until it works, and then you try it with a presenter, and then you redevelop it, and it takes years before you get a program that actually this works.
So what happens if somebody's got an idea for a program, something that they really want to produce or to create, or to go into mainstream TV? Because obviously ours is a YouTube channel, and so it's a slightly different kettle of fish. But what happens if somebody wants to get into kind of...
It depends what it is. I mean, if it's a drama, you can try sending it to companies that are doing drama. Look at the credits of Downton Abbey if it's that sort of vein, and send it to them. Don't send it to everyone because, for instance, I've never worked on a drama. The company I work for have never done a drama. We're not going to be doing dramas. We have no track record in dramas.
So in other words, if you've got an idea or a concept, approach the production companies
You can
that
try.
deal with that particular genre of...
Yeah, of course. I mean, they've got a track record, and if they like it, maybe. But
then what's to stop them from... I mean, this is the question when I've had chats with people that everybody asks, so what is to stop the production company from just taking the idea?
Okay. Nothing is the answer to that. And famously, Sassy Films, the company I work for, were in the newspapers last year, I think it was, with a case where we created what is now The Only Way is Essex, and it's been in the press. We created a program called Totally Essex, and I'm not going to go into the full details now, but it got made as The Only Way is Essex, and it went to court, and because it was our idea, and so we say. It went to court. It's been settled now. So the answer is nothing. The answer is
ideas. So it didn't go anywhere with the court case.
The court case went to court, and it was settled.
Okay.
I don't. Whatever was decided amongst a small group of people, and they can't reveal it. I don't know what the outcome was. It was in all the papers. Whether it was.
I did remember. I recall hearing rumblings about it.
Yeah. So things get stolen, and creating an idea and having any kind of copyright over an idea is incredibly difficult.
What about the writers' or creators' vault? Does that have any real...
I don't know what that is.
It's a website where you send your manuscript or your treatment, and that proves the copyright of the idea, and it's meant to have some level of backing because you keep it and store it there.
Okay.
And people can apparently find the ideas there and everything.
If you have a 100% totally unique idea, then yes, I can see that being of interest. If you have up to 1% to 99% brand new idea, someone will say it's similar to what we've already started developing with that 1% twist.
That's all that it takes.
And that's all that it takes. Now, I don't want to build a picture that it's a terrible industry of people that steal. Most people are very honest and open, and you can trust them.
Okay.
There's no reason why production companies that are established and that have a track record should be taking your ideas and stealing them. Because the bottom line is, if it's good enough that they want to make it, then they should get you on board to be making more. That's
kind of what you would hope. You know, anybody who's taking their idea to a production company would hope that if the idea is deemed worthy enough, that they would come with the package.
Of course.
You know, that actually they've brought it to the front, and they're doing that because they want the opportunity to work on it and to work with the company.
Of course, there's no reason why they should rip you off in any shape or form. And if you have a fantastic idea and are too scared to send it out, it will never be made. If you send it out, there's a chance it can be made. So
beautifully said. Because if you keep it too close to home because you're too scared of people copying it, it will never see the light of day.
No. And the same goes if you're too scared to let people see it in case they don't like it. Utterly pointless you writing it in the first place.
Speaking of writing,
yes,
you've written 2 books.
I have.
You have. Would you like to tell us a bit about that?
Yeah.
Rather not would you, please tell us.
Yeah. Okay. The first one I wrote is a novel. It's a comedy. It's a rom-com, I guess, called Never Go Back, which I published on Amazon, and thankfully it's doing quite well. It's a comedy. It was out my comfort zone. I like to do things occasionally that are completely out of my comfort zone. I got used to writing for TV, where you write very short and concise and you get to the gag very, very quickly. I wanted to develop characters and see where it went, and wrote, and this novel appeared, and fortunately it's doing quite well. It's getting very good reviews. The second one is not a novel. My daughter, my 10-year-old daughter, was kind of struggling a little bit with her times tables, learning them. But we noticed that when it came to pop songs, she could listen to a pop song and recite it straight away. So for her, because I've written many jingles for children, for products for children, I've written little songs and things that appear on TV. I thought I'd turn the times table into a song and a rap that she'd be that I could work with her, and I'd say some lines, she'd say some lines, but ultimately it was the times table she was learning, and then I'd start to say more of it, and she'd just give me the sum, and hopefully it would stick. And I found it was working, so I said, okay, well, I'll do all 12 for you. And she was having fun with it, she enjoyed it. So I thought, well, I'll put it out there, and I put it out on Amazon. It's very cheap. I think I can't remember what I'm selling it for.
It's a book.
Yeah, for a Kindle. It's a digital book, ebook.
Because I want to send my 10-year-old son to the Steven Vinacour School of Times Table. I'm like, oh my god.
It's hard learning them rote and over and over again.
That's how we learned it, isn't it? But they don't do that nowadays.
It's boring, and I thought, well, how can we make this fun? She hates it. I hate just going over these. So we made it fun, and again, not everyone's going to like it. Not every kid is going to take to it, but some might. And I struggled with my maths when I was her age and beyond. And
you've written the times table lyrics.
So I thought it would be lovely if half a dozen children would actually take to it and learn their times table in a new way, and have fun with it. And again, it's selling. So it's so niche, but it is selling.
But do you know what? It's niche, but every child the world over needs to learn their times tables.
Exactly.
And there are many English-speaking countries that will get it. So I think that I'd love to. What's it called?
Times tables, raps and rhymes. So they're fun stories. It's all, again, it's comedy, which hopefully the kids will respond to because it's funny. You do it with them. You create your own percussion, and it's fun.
It's going to be my next Amazon purchase. But it's digital, you said.
Yeah.
Is there any plans to make it into a physical book? Because I think you might sell it to the schools that way,
Yeah, it would be lovely. I think that book, if anything, needs. If I was going to publish it, he says, thinking he's got any connections with the publishing world, which I don't. It would need an illustrator to create something around it.
When has having connections or not stopped you? I mean, the Steven Vinacour that I've just been chatting to, that doesn't sound right.
Long gone.
Funnily enough, the interview another one of the interviews we've done today with an amazing gentleman called Yemi Elegunde, and I mentioned that in your interview because we were talking about the self-publishing process, because he's written his biography. He was abducted by his father as a 7-year-old child. Amazing story actually. But he self-published and has had a lot of opportunities and things come through the publishers because, yes, you pay for it, but that you can also buy into the advertising avenues and opportunities. And I think it's a really good way to go. And the publishers that he found, there's one he's used in the States. He didn't mention the name, so I can't even tell you. And there's one that he's using for local for this country. And he's had 2 very great experiences with it.
There's different ways of publishing. And when you say you paid for it, there's vanity publishing, which is you pay for the book. And then you can sell it. Okay, so you pay to get it edited and pay for a designer to do the cover, and you pay, and it I don't know how much it costs. Publishing on ebook is free.
Okay.
And it's a great way of seeing if people are interested in your work and like your work, because reviews are honest, and if they hate it, they don't know you. They'll tell you. It's the perfect way of seeing. It costs you nothing, and I could take it off Amazon tomorrow if I wanted to.
So publishing on Amazon costs nothing. What about the cover designs and stuff? Because you still need that for the ebook, don't you?
Look, there's 2 ways of looking at it. You can pay for a designer to create something, or you can learn Photoshop. Go and do it yourself. If you haven't got the money to go and get a front cover designed by someone professionally, there are tutorials on YouTube. Spend your evenings an hour a day learning Photoshop and create it, or go to a course. There's a great place in Hertfordshire that do courses, but learn it. Why not? It's a great skill to learn. You can.
But putting it onto Amazon as a free thing, presumably for any authors out there, is one thing. But getting it sold, does it just sell itself, or do you have to drive people to it and market it?
Of course, you have to drive people to it and market. You have to let people know it's there. But that's not difficult in this social media. There's Twitter and Facebook, and there's thousands of ebook Facebook pages where people are waiting for you to put on your new book. And it's an interesting learning curve of how you market, and you lower the price and you higher the price and you see what price it will sell at.
And I guess if there's no cost involved, you can afford to do just that because you don't have any outlay.
No cost. And if everyone, I always thought when I wrote Never Go Back available from Amazon. When I wrote Never Go Back, I thought, if people hate it, then I know. No one. I will delete it, and it will be forgotten, and I will never mention.
How many have you sold? Do you know the numbers?
It sold around 2,500-3,000 copies. But which is
that's amazing.
More than I ever thought. And I occasionally mention it on Facebook and things like that occasionally, but it continues to sell. I leave it there, and I'm glad people like it, and I'm glad of the response I've got, because people are finding it funny, and that's the only reason I wrote it, because it made me laugh, and I'm glad. It's
I'm going to repeat a little. I think there's still a huge amount of people that like the physical book. They like to hold it and kind of have that experience. I've been told. A lot of people I know who read a lot like to see the book, hold the book, smell the book. It's, you're not into. But I just wonder, what you could do with the right. Because that could be the next stage for that book, and it seems to have interest. If you've tested it.
Yeah, I don't know how to do that. I mean, one day I will pursue it and try, and who knows. But I don't know the avenue. I know it helps to know someone, because again, they're receiving thousands of books. Not that it necessarily puts me off, but I haven't got the time to pursue that at the moment.
Well, I suppose that could be something to park up for the future.
Maybe. But you can do that on Amazon now. There's a way.
Well,
you
they
can
do
publish
it
your
for
own
you.
book
I've seen it.
for
There
free.
is a way to physically get a book
for free.
So there you really?
For free. So there's no excuses.
Hello.
No except the one I gave, which is fine.
Except the one that you've just placed in your own path. Lovely. And what about? I mean, in terms of the bigger picture of your life and where you're at, and where do you see yourself going down the line? What's the plan for you?
I hope to carry on writing. There's more things I want to do, and I come up with ideas every now and again where I say I'm going to pursue that and see what happens, and sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't work out, and that's absolutely fine.
No ideas that you'd like to plant the seed with us?
There are ideas that I can't plant the seeds at the moment, but but who knows?
So come back when you can.
Yeah.
Because I love.
I will.
My favourite line of all the shows, whenever I get to do this, is "You heard it first" on Creative Heart. So we'd love to have you back to kind of gather momentum for any new ideas that you'd like to kind of put out there as well. It's been incredible having you on the show.
Thank you.
The generosity that you've opened up and shared kind of little bits of insight into those different industries that you work in and have experience in has been quite amazing, I think, for our viewers. Trying to put myself into their shoes, I think there's a lot there that will inspire them, that will keep them going, and either give them some clarity on the uncertainties that they may be juggling. So thank you so much for coming in. Thank you for sharing.
And I'll be back with my new ideas to tell you about them one day.
Please do. First.
Okay.
Lovely. Well, that brings us to the end of another inspiring episode of the Creative Heart Show. Looking forward to seeing you in the next episode. Take care.